If you want to do an idea of a book, anyone, any of us, the way you do that is like when I was just asking you about like the books that already exist, you need to do your comp research first. So once you guys have an idea, figure out who you want to write it for. You figure out the target reader of, I think this would be for 2 to 5 year olds. I think this would be for kindergartners, just kind of get a base. So then you know about what target market you're looking for, right? And if you don't really know, that's okay too. You just have an idea, like, I want to make this book for kids. I'm not quite certain what, let me just go research it. Either way, like the next step is to research it. And when you do that, you need to research. So like in Irene's case, she would look up wordless picture books, like picture books without words or things like that. And what you're doing when you're doing that, let's say you want to write a book about moving away, you want to write a book about kindness, you want to write a book about whatever. You just look it up, pickles and picture books or picture books about pickles, and get a list. So you're going to go on Google and you're going to see what pops up. Whatever pops up is the most relevant, highest keyword, the best selling, So those are the books that are tracking. And then you need to look into them. And when you look into these books, the things you're looking at is what year was it published? That's first. Anything that was published before 2020 should be a red flag to know that you need to find something more recent. And anything that you're trying to reference, because I had a consult with an author earlier this week, and she had an idea for a book, but she hasn't read anything since the 80s, essentially. And so all of the books she kept mentioning that she wanted to base her book off of were great books. They're books that we grew up on, they're books that we know, but they're not recent enough. And until you have recent comp books, you don't have a recent data for the market that is selling for today. And we're all trying to sell books in today's market, so you have to know that. So anything before 2020 should be a red flag that you need to find something new. Or you look at these older books and you say, okay, well, what worked? Why is this book working? But how can it work for today's reader? And then you also want to look at the publisher, because sometimes you'll find things that might be self-published, especially if you're looking on Amazon, because it's super, there's a lot on there. And so you just look to see, like, is this a smaller publisher? Is this a publisher you recognize? Does it say independently published? Is an independent publisher? Was it a larger publisher that you recognize, like Penguin or Random House or something, or Scholastic, those types of things. Because that kind of gives you a good base of the saleability of that idea. But the reason you do that, the reason you're going to pull those publishers, because it tells you how it was sold. If it was independently published, we don't know, like, if they used an editor, we don't know how many sales they got off of it, but they didn't go through any gatekeepers to do it, to get their idea out. So you really want to find something that might have been more traditional published, or something that has been successful, and you can check success rates then, like through Amazon, by number of reviews, and the ranking on the categories can kind of tell you also how well it sold, most likely. That would be your next step. But first, we're just looking at publishers. If it's sold by a small publisher that you may not recognize, go and check out that publisher, because that's going to tell you more about the publisher. If it's a hybrid, it's, again, a self-publishing thing. So then is this a hybrid that vets theirs? Is it more of a hybrid that does, anyone can publish, what other types of books are they publishing? It kind of helps, based off of your idea, what's the likelihood it's going to sell? And so this is the order you do it. There's a bonus. I think a lot of you have it, but if you don't have it, it's called Idea Creator, Kidlit Idea Creator. It should be in your course portal. It's a separate course from Kidlit Writing 101, but I dive into how to do comp book research more in depth. And then we have the Kidlit Idea Decoder in there too, which just helps you do it. But you should do this every time you have an idea. It's really good to even test, like, if you have title ideas, does it already exist? How recently was it published? Who published it? Can you use that title? Those are really good, because sometimes when we do critiques and on the Journey to Kidlit team, we'll find books that they exist already, because you've selected the same title, it's about the same idea, and that it doesn't mean that your idea isn't something you can write. It just means you might have to approach the idea from a different angle, a different perspective, find a new title, that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's the comp book research of whether or not you can do it.